In a previous video, I shared with you about the United States. We make up only about 3% of the world's population, yet we consume the over 92% of all of the over-the-counter drugs that are produced in the world. Hello, my name is Dr. Robert Bartosh of Proactive Wellness and Injury Center, and I want to share with you some information that you may not be aware of. You know, according to the World Health Organization, out of the top 50 healthiest nations in the world, the United States ranks number 48. That means there's 47 other countries in the world that live longer and live healthier than we do. And for every action, you've got to understand there's an opposite and equal reaction. So getting back to the drugs, whether they be over the counter or prescribed, when you get a prescribed medication, the pharmacist usually comes to you and he or she will explain to you the benefits of the drug, how it should be taken, and also makes you aware of some of the adverse reactions or the conditions that could develop as a result of taking that particular drug. Also on the television, when you see these commercials about the latest craze in the drug market, how it treats this and takes care of that, and how you're supposed to go to your doctor and tell them about this or request this particular medication, they have a whole litany of adverse reactions, conditions that could result even at the end death. So what they don't tell you, though, is how it affects you nutritionally. Because again, as I said, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And what I wanted to do was I picked out the most popular over-the-counter drugs that are purchased by the individuals here in the United States. And I wanted to focus one by one on these particular drugs and make you aware as to how, if you are one of these consumers or users, how it's affecting your body, because they never tell you how it's affecting the nutrients in your body and how it results in the nutritional depletion. Now, nutrients are foods, basically, that are used by the body, and all foods produce energy, and that's what we get from the foods we eat. When we eat them and digest them, it releases the energy, and that gives us the fuel that we need in order to live healthy and to operate through our lives. Well, with these drugs, there is an induced nutrient depletion that occurs. Now, the first one that I want to focus on in this video in particular are the H2 blockers, otherwise known as the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors. These are basically the antacids. And look, before I get into the list of these antacids, I wanted just to remind you that if you are currently a user of an antacid, it doesn't mean you're not using it because your body is producing too much acid. That is not why you're having the problem you're having. And that's a myth. Actually, what's going on is your body isn't producing enough acid, and then you're compounding the problem by taking the antacid that's producing or that is quelling what little acid your body is producing. Anyway, I don't want to get off onto a rabbit trail, but that's basically what's happening. And with that in mind, I want to tell you that your body, as magnificent as it is talking to you. It's letting you know that it has a problem. And many of us, what we do is we basically suppress the voice by taking a drug. We can no longer hear it, and or we just totally ignore it. We take the drug to the point so often that we just have totally ignored the problem, and we continue going on our way taking these drugs thinking that the problem has been taken care of. But all you've done is silenced it for a period of time, because it will come back with a much louder voice, as a matter of fact, roaring to you about the problem that you now have as a result. Anyway, getting back to the PPIs, or the proton pump inhibitors, these antacids, I had a list, and I want you to know that by no means is this exhaustive. These are just some of the more popular ones. So we have the Nexium, the Privacid, the Protonix, the good old Malox, remember that one? The Mylanta, the Tagamet, the Tums. Yeah, it's been around forever. The Tums, boy, anyway, and the Pepsid, and we have the Pepsid AC and the Zantac. Those are the more popular antacids that people are taking. Now, with this too, before I move on, I want to let you know that these are not to be taken over a long period of time. As a matter of fact, if you read the label, it's probably no longer than 14 days because these puppies will definitely, if they continue to be used, they're going to cause some damage and some of which will become irreparable. So, with that, I want to focus on the antacids and some of the depletions of the nutrients that it's causing in your body with continued use. All right. And again, this list is not exhaustive. This is just some of the um, more notable depletions that are going on. So with the antacids, your body is being depleted of calcium, and the calcium is used for bone. We all know that, and the muscles and the heart, hormone reproduction and release, also reducing blood pressure for nerve transmission and also for blood clotting. So let's back up a little bit. If you don't have enough calcium, you can develop osteopenia, osteoporosis. Now, most women are aware of that, and they've been told by their doctor that they go to that he or she advises you to take at least 2,000 milligrams of it a day. Well, this doctor won't tell you that. There's a cause for it, there's a reason for it, and you need to go upstream far enough to find out what it is. But you have the osteopenia, the osteoporosis, the muscle contraction, the muscle twitching. Now the muscle goes into the heart. It affects your heart if you don't have enough calcium. It's affecting your heart. If you continue to take the antacid that's depleting it, it's affecting your heart. The hormone release and production. A lot of people are affected, especially females again, with the imbalance of the hormones, right? It'll decrease your blood pressure. That means conversely, if you don't have enough calcium in your system, it's going to increase your blood pressure, for which you're going to get another drug, right? Okay. And then the nerve transmission. We're not only talking about the nerves of the hands or the arms or the legs, but we're talking about the major component of neurology in the brain, in the spinal cord, in the bowels as well, and also blood clotting. You'll lose the ability, or at least it'll be attenuated, in your body's ability to clot the blood when or if you should ever get cut. It's one of the reactions or depletions. Another one has to do with vitamin B12. Now you're familiar with the B12 blood anemia. There are birth defects associated with a depletion of vitamin B12. Now every pregnancy should be advised. Every female that is pregnant should always be advised before they become pregnant and while they're pregnant, especially in the first trimester, that they need a vitamin B12 with folate, because as we'll see, it also reduces the potential for neural tube failure to close, which is known as spina bifida occulta. So this can be easily eradicated with the induction of vitamin B12 and folate, the right type of vitamin B12, because there's different types, and the amount of folate to be merged with the vitamin B12. Totally. And if an individual that is desiring to become pregnant or is pregnant and they're on an antacid, they need to have a talk with their doctor about that. Okay? So the vitamin B12, not only the birth defects, but macular degeneration as well. There's two types, the wet and the dry. Vitamin B12 is very, very important in its ability to prevent and attenuate the macular degeneration. Depression. I mean, probably, and I can't tell you empirically, but probably 7 out of 10 people that are walking around, especially right now in the environment in which we're in, they're depressed. So because of that, the vitamin B12 is being utilized, it's being drained from the body. And look, if they're on an antacid because now they got agita, they got an upset stomach because of what's going on, that just adds to it. The brain neurons, as I said before, with the effect on the nerve system, the brain neurons are going to be reduced. So we go back to cognitive function, dementias, Alzheimer's, all of that relates. And then also the heart, an increase in heart attacks and heart issues now that we're experiencing in the United States. And, the hair, nails, and skin, not to dismiss them as not being important, but again, it does affect that as well. Now we move on to another one. This is all the depletion because of antacids. Phosphorus, it affects the bones too. So ladies, osteopenia, osteoporosis, and you think it's going to be resolved just by adding calcium, you're sorely mistaken. You must have the phosphorus. It is imperative. You've got to have it for the bones, the muscle weakness as well. The blood pH, the most important of all the pHs in the body, is the blood pH, and it must be maintained. Because if it's not, that individual will die very, very quickly. So what the body does, because it's a self-preserving entity, it's going to draw from its stores or its banks of other essential minerals in order to buffer, in order to create or support that blood pH so that it doesn't go awry, and it's going to be taking withdrawals from the banks, if you will, only to empty them out in a period of time because of the continued use of the antacids and the failure to replenish what the body's needing. Anyway, also the heart rhythms. A lot of people, especially the gender, the female gender, heart arrhythmias, tachycardias, bradycardias, all of these heart rhythms could be a result of the depletion of phosphorus in their body. So if you're experiencing that, you know you need to go to your doctor, have him or her check you out. Vitamin D. Now we're, in this environment also, we're hearing about vitamin D, we're hearing about zinc, and that's a good thing. We're finally becoming aware of some of the things that we can do to maintain our health. Vitamin D actually isn't a vitamin, it's a prohormone. That means it's used by the body to produce other hormones, and it's distributed out throughout the body, and it will affect the osteoporosis, osteopenia as well. So we go back to it. It's not just about calcium, it's about phosphorus, vitamin D. So we move on. Oh, and may I say, if you get, and you should get your vitamin D level tested, many of your practitioners will be satisfied if you come back with a level of around 20 or 30. You really need to get it up to a level of 70 or 80. Those are the sweet spots. That's when your body is going to really be enjoying a higher level in its performance of the life that you're living. So the vitamin D is very, very important. Research links it to cancer, all types of cancers. You have cancers. The research shows that those individuals also have a lower vitamin D level. Psoriasis, also the cognitive benefits, that is the thinking, brain fog, inability to recall certain facts or memories or whatever it might be. Look to the vitamin D. The multiple sclerosis as well, and the immune system. See, but you can be an individual that's taking these antacids for that stomach upset, and you think that you're paying a price in other areas. The folate, again, the cognitive function having to do with how the brain is operating. Depression, see that B12, the folate, the calcium, depression. Boy, and anyway, we get into the cancer and to the heart. And again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the birth defect, the spina bifida, right? So now we move down to iron. Iron is used, oh my gosh, in the digestion. If you have digestive problems, which obviously if you're taking antacids, you think you do, iron could be the culprit. In the immune system, your body temperature, it's used by the body to regulate body temperature, not just your thyroid with the hot flashes and whatnot, iron. Also, the oxygen capacity. It helps the body, the hemoglobin, it helps the blood to carry more oxygen. So with a lack of iron or deficiency, your body is weakened or lessened in its ability to carry oxygen to the brain, which is vitally important. And that can be improved just by having that tested. And then the zinc, the immune system, wound healing, it accelerates wound healing. And also the macular degeneration, both types, the wet and the dry, pneumonias, acne. And this becomes more important as we go through time, as we age. And then the B1 has to do with the nervous system, the heart, the brain, the intestines, and on and on and on it goes. The body uses all of these. And it's very difficult to list some of these effects because they kind of spill over to one another, as you are aware now as I've gone through it, how they each one kind of merges with another and affects another and another and another, and you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, it's like they're good for everything, and yes, they are, and they're nutrients that are essential to your body. But as I said earlier on in this video, if you're taking an antacid, you're creating another monster in your body. And unfortunately, the reason for which you think you're taking the antacid isn't the right reason. Most people take it because they think their body's producing too much acid, when in fact, it's not producing enough. So you need to have a talk with your doctor about that if you're an individual that's taking one of those popular proton pump inhibitors that I mentioned earlier, because you're creating some serious damage to your body. And if you're wanting some help in these areas, if we can be of service, why, feel free to contact us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I want to thank you before we end this for watching it. And until the next video, and as always, God bless.